the Beatles came.
Oh, yeah.
And
those guys.
Yeah, those guys.
Yeah, those guys. Check those, by the way. Check them out, BitTorrent. Those guys rule. You might want to hear them.
Yeah, if you haven't heard anything by them, you're going to want to. Because there's some really strong songwriting there.
Yeah. Couple hits.
Yeah. But, I used to work for the San Diego Union-Tribune newspaper, and I was able to get some reprints. And this is the San Diego Union paper, the page dedicated to the Beatles attending or playing at Balboa Stadium. Ironically, and there again, they weren't on the front page. They were on the front page of the local news.
Was it that they didn't want... Did people not want to give them the light of day back then? Is that what it was? Or did they just not think it was that big of a deal?
Well, they knew it was that big of a deal, but back in the 60s, there was a generation gap.
Yeah.
To where...
That's what I mean.
Yeah. And so if you read, I went through all these articles, Yeah.
And...
some of these reviews just made fun of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Unlikely millionaires.
Yeah.
They're afraid to get a haircut. There were always these insults.
Yeah, exactly.
And so they didn't give them a lot of credence.
Yeah. Because I remember in the Beatles anthology, there was a clip of a news interviewer. It was after John Lennon made the comment about "we're bigger than Jesus" or whatever, right. And he was interviewing people, and even the questions were leading. They were like, "So, what do you think? Is this finally the end of the Beatles? Are they finally going to go away and never have another hit again?" Like everyone was like egging them on to fail and like
right.
things like that. That's what I
right,
was
and that was I don't want to say the goal, but that was they just didn't carry a lot of respect. Certain people. Now, I will say that the reason why the Beatles became who they are or who they were was because so many people did appreciate them, and especially as songwriters and of course performers. But there again, I think what really happened was when they first came out, they were the huge sensation. Mm-hmm. And then as time went on and as the years went on, people started to realize, they're not going away. Yeah. And what they're doing. I mean, back in the, whatever the Beatles did, everybody else did. Yeah. And I always use the example, every single music act that came out, every music group that came out in the 60s wanted to be the Beatles.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was, the case. Yeah. So, with that, when I was married in 1982, I invited Paul and Linda McCartney to my wedding. And I got this letter, airmail, and it had the red and blue stripes around the envelope, and it was like, what's this, And I didn't send a return envelope or anything. And so they spent postage on this. But when I got it, I thought, crap, who else can I invite? Yeah. Who else famous? So anyway, I invited Paul and Linda to my wedding. They couldn't attend because they were recording, but they did have the secretary send me an RSVP, and that was really awesome. Back in 1973, John Lennon was separated from Yoko, and it was called his Lost Weekend, and he was doing, and there was some resentment for the title Lost Weekend because he was practically more productive during that period of time than he had been all the years combined with Yoko at that time. But nonetheless, he was in Las Vegas exactly at the same time I was. I had no idea. But I was 16 years old, and Vegas at that time, wasn't as stringent and they didn't really look for minors. It was a different time. And I was sitting playing Keno with my dad, and John Lennon comes walking through the casino. And as I was stunned, I got a Keno card, a Keno sheet, and a crayon, and I rushed to go get an autograph. And unfortunately, he had disappeared, and I missed him. But I was happy with the thought that I saw him. A couple of 3 hours later, we were going to see the Osmond Brothers, and this is inside the Caesars Palace Casino. We went to see the Osmond Brothers, and it was a dinner show, and after dinner, I said, I'm going to go up and go to the restroom. My mom said, yeah, she needed to go too, so we left the showroom, went right outside the showroom, and there he was sitting at a table with a bunch of people. I walked up to him. I tapped him on the shoulder. I said, John, and he didn't respond. I go, John? I tapped him on the shoulder again. He didn't respond. And then he turned around and gave me one of these. He went,
really?
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah. And I went, ah, just like that. I went, ah. And I said, hey, is there a way I can have your autograph? I said, I saw you earlier in the casino and I didn't want to make a scene. But, I am just a huge fan of yours and, of course, the Beatles. And I was just a 16-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And my mom, was standing there with her arms folded, just beaming that I was meeting one of my idols. If you could ever pick an idol, for me, it was Paul McCartney and John Lennon. That doesn't happen very often. And so he looked at me and he goes, well, I appreciate that, and I'd appreciate it if you don't, go telling everybody. And I go, no, I won't, John, I promise. You and me. I looked at him and I said, you and me, man. No, I didn't do that. But anyway, so there it is right there. And there's the autograph. And there's the other side. I made a copy of the Keno card. But there it is.
There was
right?
Caesar's Keno card.
Yeah. And so.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But, he was just the nicest guy to this kid. He could have been an asshole, but he wasn't.
Had every right to be. I mean, just given how people treat them, all the time and stuff like that in the public and things like that, he had every reason to just be like, not right now, but that was really cool.
Yeah, and he was at a table with about 10 different people.
Yeah.
And he had his head shaved at the time.
Yeah.
And someone at the back of the table went, well, it's something me recognized you, John. And, and I said, oh, I'll always recognize a Beatle.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I didn't even look up. I was so focused on John Lennon that after I got back and thought about it, I thought, crap, who else was at that freaking table?
The president.
I know. Jesus.
Yeah.
No. So that was in 1973. So you come back 20 years later. And he was with May Pang at the time. That's who he was dating. I found her email address. So I emailed her. And I told her the story. She remembered me. And she said the people were at the table was a couple of Apple Records executives. And also the guy, I think his name is John Hammond, who sang or wrote, I think he sang it too, It Never Rains in Southern California.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, screw that guy. He's a loser.
Well, he made Jurassic Park.
Yeah, there you go. So
that's an accomplishment.
Okay, well, I guess. But he wasn't a Beatle. And that's
true.
So, anyway, so that was that. And that was a really good story. And so here, let's go over to my records. Here's another example. After Sgt. Pepper came out, the Magical Mystery Tour came out. This is the Magical Mystery Tour album. Yeah. There it is. All these I bought, literally the day they came out.
I didn't know it actually had a book in the original version. It had a book like that? That's
right.
Cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, this was really awesome because you had This came out in December of 1967. So, I mean, to talk about the Beatles' output, you had Penny Lane and Strawberry Fields Forever, the single, come out in around May, late April, early May of 1967. Then June 3rd, the Sgt. Pepper album came out, which didn't have, Strawberry Fields or Penny Lane. So you had a complete album of new music. Then in July, a month later, All You Need Is Love comes out as a single that isn't on Sgt. So more new music. And then in December, a new album comes out. I mean, they were putting out, 2-3 albums a year. And with great music. So anyway, this is what came out as a Magical Mystery Tour. And side 1 is the music from the Magical Mystery Tour. And then side 2 were Hello, Goodbye, Strawberry Fields Forever, Penny Lane, Baby You're, and All You Need Is Love. So the singles. So you had that. Now, in England, they're again not wanting to take advantage. This is what they put out.
Oh, wow.
And
this is what came out in the UK?
Yeah. And it had the book.
Wow.
And it just contained the songs from the movie.
And that's it. No singles.
No singles.
Wow.
But there again, Capitol, wanted to kind of see, and just the singles. And this is what's called an EP, I think. But that's it.
Huh. I never knew that.
Yeah.
I never knew that they only got that.
Yeah. But, that was the proper way to do it. And
without overcharging anybody.
Without overcharging anybody.
Yeah.
This is something that's kind of neat. Okay, so I'm talking more about the Beatles, but that's, the big interest. So you have Let It Be. And this is the album Let It Be when it, came out, in the United States.
Yeah.
In England, it wasn't what they call a gatefold. A gatefold album is, when it opens up.
Right.
Okay. It came out as a single record. Like a single, like a regular record.
Yeah.
Not a gatefold, but just.
Sure.
But they also had a box set, and this was supposed to be released in the United States, and it never did. And you come over here, and I'll show you.
Sure.
And you might not have ever seen this, Rocco.
I don't think I have.
So this is Let It Be box set. And they didn't do things like this in the 60s, but actually it came out in the 70s. So here's the original album. See, it doesn't open up.
Yeah, sure.
And then the box set, though, came out with a Let It Be book.
Really? Wow. I never saw that.
And, with just all pictures of... And this is a fairly rare also.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've never seen that. I never knew it came with a book.
Yeah. It even has dialogue. So, anyway. And what was interesting is, back in around 1973... At one of the bookstores, they had stacks of those books that they were selling for $1 a piece.
Really?
Yeah, because they were going to be it was going to be released in the United States, and it never did. Never was.
Weird.
So they just had all these overprints.
How crazy.
Yeah, and so they sold them for $1 a piece in these bookstores.
Wow.
I wish I would have bought a lot of them.
Yeah, no kidding. Sell them now.
Yeah. I buy all my Beatles and Paul McCartney music, of course on CD, because they're all released on CD. But I also buy them on record.
Yeah, you do have a lot of CDs, though, too.
Yeah,
So-
those and over there too.
Yeah, over there too. Jeez, there's a lot of stuff here. All kinds of stuff. But anyway, but you still get them on vinyl too.
Yeah, I get them on vinyl too.
You have a preference?
Well, I like the CD. I like the convenience of the CD, but so I'll show you something that's really kind of neat.
Okay.
If I can.
Something. It looks like something sketchy.
Yeah, it is sketchy.
Paper bag.
It's a paper bag. I don't want anybody to see it. But let me come over here. So Paul McCartney, every once in a while puts out an album or music under the name of The Fireman.
Yeah.
And this was the first one, and it came out to probably 93 or so, around 93. Then this came out 97. And then this came out in 2008. And there again, The Fireman. And this is more of a Paul McCartney album.
Yeah.
These are all like electronic music and instrumentals. And this was the first Fireman CD or recordings that actually had him singing.
Sure.
So it's a really good album. But anyway, he came up with a special edition version also. And it came in this bag. And because he's the fireman, this really weighs a lot. It was delivered in... Hey, wait a minute. Don't step on that. In a metal box as to not, you don't want it to catch on fire.
Wow.
So this is what he sent me, or what came out. Wow. I haven't looked at this in a long time. But that's kind of neat. I mean, it looks pretty raw.
Yeah, it looks like handwritten and stuff.
And then comes with a, I haven't really looked at this, but it comes with the tracks, and it also comes with.
Oh, so that's a CD box set.
Yeah, but it comes with the CD, and then high resolution and a DVD.
Oh, okay.
And then a bonus tracks, and then data files. Yeah. So you could kind of create your own.
Yeah, remixes and stuff. Yeah.
Which I think is really cool.
That's awesome.
I never did it.
Yeah. You didn't remix any of his tracks?
No. Because I felt like he probably did his best.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be hard to do better.
Yeah, I don't think I could do better, and if I did, it would be awkward.
Yeah, exactly. Just let McCartney have his day.
Right.
Give the guy some credit.
Well, I just didn't want to overshadow him. But anyway, so I even kept this, the customs tag that it came. But anyway, it comes with, some neat stuff and, all this. So anyway, like I said, I haven't even looked at this in a long, long time. Comes with a bumper sticker, because you might want to put this on your car. I didn't, because I buy cars quite often. Okay, so I'll just put this here. What else did you want to look at, Rocco? We can talk about records. We can talk about some of the singles that I have.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think's like the weirdest single, weirdest record you have? Something that you might find unusual.
Well,
you got John Lennon's shoes.
I have John Lennon's shoes, but that's not really unusual, is it? I have this thing that just fell. Gosh. Well, let's look at the Beatles. If you don't mind, do you mind?
Yeah.
Is it okay? I'll show you some of the things I have with this. These are really old Beatles singing My Bonnie on,
Whoa.
um, collecting what they call picture sleeves. A lot of people would get the records and then they'd throw away the picture sleeve.
Yeah.
And that was such a mistake because they're so valuable. And, you'd go to the store and see that, and it'd be like, oh my gosh, the new Beatles, a new record. And this was, this, I will say, was really the change. When they came out with Penny Lane and Strawberry Fields Forever. Mm-hmm. And they, all of a sudden you looked and they didn't look the same.
Yeah.
And wait, they have mustaches. They look older. They're on drugs. That's what it is. And then when you had Strawberry Fields,
I've never seen the cover to that.
Yeah. It was like, well, I remember the rumor was, this is what it sounds like when you're on LSD. This is what it feels like. That,
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about.
Yeah.
When you're on LSD, this is what it feels like,
Yeah.
And that wasn't the case. It was just music.
How do you know? Did you try it?
Well, I immediately took LSD. I was only in 6th grade, but
You had to prove them wrong.
that's right. You have to be